Hey everyone, this is Iris. Welcome back. If you're here, you want to learn about making cinemagraphs, which are small video clips where the motion is isolated and it loops infinitely. So in order to get that look, we're using Photoshop to make sure that our end frame is the same as our beginning frame. That way, the look is completely seamless. We're going to start by pulling our video into Photoshop, like you see it here, and that should automatically pull up your timeline. If your timeline doesn't pull up automatically, go to Window and select Timeline. You'll want to make sure that the timeline panel looks the same as you see it here, where you'll be working in layers. Click the gear icon towards the top left of that panel and you'll make sure that your playback is set to loop. It's really important to note that the very first frame of your video cannot be the first frame of your cinemagraph. So I'm going to scrub through my video and find the frame that I want my cinemagraph to begin on. I see the haze starting to come in here, but I also know that for my GIF, I don't want the beer can to be obscured or affected at all by the haze. So before I trim my clip down, I'm grabbing a frame where the can is exactly how I want it for the frozen part of the cinemagraph. To create a blank layer, I use the keyboard shortcut Shift-Command-Option-N. To create a layer from this frame of the video, I use the keyboard shortcut Shift-Command-Option-E, which makes a stamp visible layer. Now this stamp visible layer gives me what I need to keep part of the cinemagraph still. I'm going to come back to this layer later and I'll make it invisible for now. First, I want to lock in my infinite loop and make sure that all of my frames line up where they should. Now I'm scrubbing through my clip, finding the first frame. Once I've found it, I'm going to pull the footage from the left to trim it until it snaps on the marker that I've set here. Then, of course, I am going to want to find the end frame. Overall, you want to keep this clip that we're using for the loop as tight as possible, because with too much footage, you'll run into issues with your GIF size being too large later, when you're uploading it to the internet, having it load quickly enough, being able to see it, etc. So just take what you need to loop the motion. Once you get that small clip that you need, when you watch the playback, you'll see a loop where it jumps as it loops over and over again. The main goal here is to get rid of that jump and have a seamless, infinite looking loop. So first, I'm going to duplicate the layer group for this clip. I've renamed it in my layer panel as just fog. Now that I have two layers in the timeline of the exact same clip, I'm going to trim and realign them to create the loop. Remember earlier when I said how the beginning frame had to be the same as the last frame? So I'm going to move the bottom layer over to the right to make that happen. So I click and drag it to the end of the clip on top until it snaps into place. Now I'm going to drag the edge of that clip to the left, pulling back in part of what I trimmed away earlier in order for the video layer above to have footage to blend into. Scrubbing through from the start of the timeline, you can see that the first visible frame of the bottom layer is the same as the first frame of the top layer, just like I wanted. I'm going to trim the rest of the footage on the right off of the bottom layer. Since I got the frame that I needed from it, I don't need the rest. So now if you watch the playback, we're still seeing that stark jump in the loop. To fix that, I now have to make sure that our top video layer is invisible by the time that clip ends. That allows the bottom footage to take over, perfectly syncing the first and last frame. I'm going to do that by using keyframes. On the top video layer, click the drop-down arrow, and you'll see a row appear for opacity, which is where we'll be adding keyframes to blend the footage together. Now I'm going to move my marker where I want the fade to begin. Once that's locked in, click the stopwatch icon to the left of opacity to set the first keyframe. That little diamond that appears at the marker is your first keyframe, which marks the beginning of where that footage is going to fade. In the layers panel on the right, you can see over here where the opacity is set at 100%. Now I'm going to create a second keyframe at a different spot on my timeline, drag it all the way to the end of the clip, and with that second keyframe selected, I'm going to the layers panel to change that opacity to 0. I've made the layer with the can that I want visible again, and now I'm going to create a layer mask, clicking the icon at the bottom of the layers panel. I'm going to turn this layer mask black using the keyboard shortcut Command-I for invert. This hides everything on that layer, so with a white brush, which will reveal all of the pixel information that I've hidden in that layer mask, I can brush the can back into the image. With that, I have isolated the motion away from part of the image, and there is still that smooth, consistent loop. First, I'm going to adjust the exposure with a curves layer by going to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Curves. In the panel on the right, above my layers, you can see the curves panel. Click and drag different points across that diagonal line to adjust the exposure, highlights, and shadows of the image until you have it the way that you want it. One of my favorite tools for color processing in Photoshop you can find by going to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Selective Color. When you click on the drop-down menu next to Colors, there's a list of several different colors to choose from. Whatever color you select, you can adjust the specific tones of each color. How you process your colors will depend on the mood and look that you want to achieve. For me, I want to emphasize the blues and reds in this image, so those are the colors I'm primarily going to be working with. Also, if I want to minimize the effect in certain areas of the frame, I can brush it away with the layer mask. To export the Cinemagraph as a GIF, go to File, Export, Save for Web. When the export window pops up, make sure all of your settings are correct. First, start by making sure that the third drop-down menu up there in the top right corner that says Selective is changed to say Adaptive. This will make the color rendering much smoother. It will also increase your file size, which you can find in the bottom left-hand corner, but as long as the GIF exports at around 25 megabytes or less, that should be small enough for the web. Also, check to make sure that your colors are set to 256 in the top right for the best range of color in the image, and make sure that your looping option is set to forever. When all of these settings are correct, click Save, and you're all done.